खबरां दा lekha jokha July 7, 2025।
Transport Committee to debate whether to study BC Ferries Chinese ship contract. The House of Commons Transport Committee is meeting to decide whether to study BC Ferries' decision to purchase 4 Chinese vessels. BC Ferries announced last month that it hired China Merchants Industry Weihai shipyards to build 4 new ships after a 5-year procurement process that did not include a Canadian bid. Transport Minister Chrystia Freeland sent her BC counterpart a letter on June 20th saying she's dismayed by the deal and expects BC Ferries to mitigate potential security risk. She also asked the BC government to confirm that no federal funding will be diverted to purchase the ferries. The Canada Infrastructure Bank contributed $1 billion to the deal and said in June 26 statement that the new ferries wouldn't likely be purchased without this financing. The Transport Committee meeting is scheduled to start at 12 p.m. Eastern.
BC ਦੇ ਫੈਰੀਜ਼ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਰਡਰ ਆ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਚਾਈਨੀਜ਼ ਕੰਪਨੀ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਣ ਦੇ ਮੁਤਲਕ ਚਰਚਾਵਾਂ ਲੰਮੇ ਸਮੇਂ ਤੋਂ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਹੁਣ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਮੰਤਰਾਲਾ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਕ੍ਰਿਸਟੀਆ ਫਰੀਲੈਂਡ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਿ ਬਿਡ ਸੀ ਔਰ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਿਰਫ ਚਾਈਨੀਜ਼ ਕੰਪਨੀ ਨੇ ਭਾਗ ਲਿਆ ਸੀ, ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਕੰਪਨੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਸਨੇ ਭਾਗ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਲਿਆ। ਹੁਣ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਇਹ ਪੁਖਤਾ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਇੱਕ ਆਸਪੈਕਟ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਜੇ $1 ਬਿਲੀਅਨ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਫੈਰੀਜ਼ ਦੇ ਬਣਤਰ ਦੇ ਲਈ, ਉਹ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਹਾਲਤ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਸ ਕੰਟਰੈਕਟ ਦੇ ਅੰਤਰਗਤ ਇਸ ਕੰਪਨੀ ਨੂੰ ਨਾ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਜਾਵੇ। ਔਰ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਅੱਜ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਵਡੇਰੀ ਮਾਤਰਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪੁਣ ਚਾਣ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਹੋਣੀ ਹੈ।
BC Conservative leader John Rustad faces criticism from several sides amid a review. Dave Sharkey still remembers how he felt about the future of the Conservative Party of BC when he was part of the delegation that marched in the 2022 Elder Grove Christmas Light-Up Parade. There were only 4 of us, Sharkey said. 2 of us were holding the banner and the other 2 were handing out candy canes. But the reception was actually surprisingly positive and was kind of experience that led me to believe that in terms of our political ambitions, we were on the right track. Sharkey, a party member since 2017 and a former provincial candidate for the Libertarian Party, now sees Conservatives on the wrong track. His conclusion comes despite the BC Conservatives coming within a whisker of forming government in October 2024, when 912,000 residents voted for the party that had just under 36,000 votes in the 2020 election. Sharkey said he blames the same man others credit for reviving a party that once polled at 2%, official opposition leader John Rustad. The party's directions and identity is at the heart of a dispute and set off the departure of 3 members of the legislature and arguments among riding associations. Should it be popular or moderate, big tent or small? It also comes as party members review Rustad's leadership in accordance with the party's constitution. Rustad became the leader a month after joining the party in March of 2023. He had been with the BC Liberals since 2005 but was kicked out in 2022 by then leader Kevin Falcon. Relations between the rivals then reversed in August of 2024 when Falcon suspended the election campaign of his party, rebranded as BC United, following the defections of members of the Conservatives. Now Sharkey says the Conservatives have become a rebranded version of Rustad's old party. There was no appetite from the members to be that big tent party, he said. There is an appetite from the members to remain a grassroots party, and if Mr. Rustad wants to be a big tent, start a big tent party. He believes Rustad's changes cost Conservatives the election win, said Sharkey, who considers himself the Riding Association president in Abbotsford Mission. Dominic Signali describes himself as an early supporter and one-time close confidant of Rustad, but said he doesn't like the direction Rustad has taken the party. He has abandoned what we all stood for, Kinali said. He's abandoned the strong stances that we had, and it wasn't just John who brought us there. It was all the volunteers and the people who were out there fighting tooth and nail. Kinali said he's disappointed about the party's changed directions on reconciliation with First Nations and sexual orientation and gender identity programming. They've gone more mediocre, more to the middle, said Kinali, who is no longer a party member. But for others, the conservative tent isn't big enough. Ryan Beatty, a prominent Vancouver businessman, said in a social media post last month that the Conservatives will need to rebrand to something more inclusive if they wish to appeal to centrist voters just as Social Credit or the BC Liberals did in the past. A months-long leadership review is underway, and allegations from Ruston that 3 former Conservative MLAs, Tara Armstrong, Daltas Brody, and Jordan Keeley, blackmailed Conservative staff. Ruston first made the allegation in a letter to his caucus without naming the MLAs directly. All 3 have denied the claims and have instead accused Ruston of using the allegations to distract from questions about his leadership. While Ruston has since expressed regret for using the term blackmail, his critics have seized on it. BD said Ruston's allegations raise questions about his leadership and the party should use the review to move towards the middle. Hopefully, this review is a positive step towards the BC Conservative getting their house in order and shifting their political strategy to a more centrist approach. They will need to do so, or the BC NDP will be staying in power for the foreseeable future. UBC political science lecturer Stewart Press said the Conservatives consist of a populist wing and a moderate wing, and the current riding by riding leadership vote could make for a messy summer, with Ruston facing pressure from both sides. We're already hearing rumblings of challenges from both camps, so I don't know if it is an either or situation, Press said when asked which faction was more likely to challenge Ruston for leadership. A central source of criticism concerns the handling of the party's last annual general meeting held in March. The Team Ruston slate swept elections for the party's board of directors. Delegates also approved amendments to the party's constitution as proposed by Ruston. But not everybody has accepted the results, including Armstrong, Brody, and Kelly. Brody was kicked out of the caucus days after the general meeting for comments concerning residential school survivors, and Armstrong and Kelly followed her in solidarity. In May, they alleged Ruston and his team rigged the meetings that endorsed the board, claiming it was stacked with South Asian supporters paid to vote the way Mr. Ruston wanted. Brody and Armstrong have since gone on to form their own party, One BC. Its chief of staff is Tim Thelman, a former Conservative candidate in Victoria Beacon Hill. After losing the election, Thelman was fired from his party job as Director of Research. Thelman later ran for the party president at the AGM, but delegates re-elected current president Aisha Este. The allegations surrounding the AGM received another airing last month when 50-plus signatories describing themselves as executive members or former executive members of riding associations called on Este to launch an external audit of the AGM. The letter repeats the allegations that Team Ruston stacked the meeting with paid supporters, but also alleges that delegates were selected and rejected on the basis of their political leanings or allegiance to Ruston. It alleges Ruston and the executive team increased the influence of party executive over the selection process by improperly delaying, denying, or withdrawing certification of riding associations and placing Ruston's loyalists into ridings where they were not residents. Sharkey said he signed the letter because he believed procedures were not correctly followed and he regarded the whole meeting to be illegitimate. Sharkey shared his view in March when he stood outside meeting in Nanaimo to protest it, where Ariel Alderking, another signatory, had joined him. Elder King, who ran federally for the People's Party of Canada in the last federal election, said the AGM was the site of a coup where a handful of people under Rustin's leadership stole the party from grassroots conservatives. Under John Rustin, it has become a centralized BC Liberal Party top down, she said in an interview. The only thing they have done is put blue coat on a red party. A statement from the party said the letter is signed largely by those who are not even members of the party, let alone directors. The allegations are just as absurd as the notion of the letter written by non-members. Signed mostly by non-members made to artificially inflate a non-issue for the sake of attention and mudslinging, he said. Rustin has denied any wrongdoings at the meeting. I have been advised by our legal counsel and experts who were present to scrutinize the voting process that our AGM was 100% in line with the party's 2024-2025 constitution, he said in a letter containing the blackmail allegations against the 3 former Conservative MLAs. Rustin said in an interview last month that critics like Sharkey and others want this party to be something that it is not. I've said this all the way through the campaign, and I don't know why people haven't heard it. It's not about being conservative or liberal or NDP or green. It's just standing for what's right and fighting for the average everybody people. That is the party that we have built, Rustin said. Conservative member of the legislature Gavin Dew said his current party has had incredible success in building a new voter coalition that includes many more young voters and more voters from different cultural communities. We have made incredible strides with blue-collar voters, Dew added. We do incredibly well with the suburban voters, so we have made all this progress. But it is clear that we still need to win over that incremental voters, which I would say is the middle on the road vote. If the party holds its current coalition together and adds more economically oriented voters from the middle of the spectrum to this coalition, Conservative can hold government for multiple terms, Dew said in an interview. Prest is more skeptical, while strong poll numbers now and victory down the line might entice both wings of the Conservatives to put aside their differences. There isn't really a stable policy compromise that would make both of those sides happy in the long term, he said. In some really important ways, the divides between populist and more middle-of-the-road Conservatives are deeper than the divides between middle-of-the-road Conservatives and NDP, Press said.
BC Conservative Party ਦੇ ਮੁਖੀ ਜੌਨ ਰਸਟਨ ਦੀ ਲੀਡਰਸ਼ਿਪ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਕਾਫੀ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਵਟਾਂਦਰੇ ਨੇ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਯਾਦ ਰਹੇ ਕੁਝ ਮਹੀਨੇ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਲੀਡਰਸ਼ਿਪ ਦੇ ਮੁਤਲਕ ਫੀਡਬੈਕ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਜਾਏਗੀ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਆਪਣੀ ਕਾਰਗੁਜ਼ਾਰੀ ਬਤੌਰ ਲੀਡਰ ਬਿਹਤਰ ਕਰ ਸਕੇ ਜਾਂ ਕਿਸ ਪੱਧਰ ਤੇ ਕਰ ਸਕੇ। ਹਾਂ, ਇਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਬੜੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਆਲੋਚਨਾ ਵੱਡੇ ਪੱਧਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਵੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ, ਔਰ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਕਿ ਜੌਨ ਰਸਟਨ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਾਰਗੁਜ਼ਾਰੀ ਆ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਸਿਰਫ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਪਸੰਦੀਦਾ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਗਰੁੱਪ ਦੀ ਸਹਿਮਤੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਚਲਾਉਣ ਦੀ ਵੀ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ। ਨਾਲ ਦੀ ਨਾਲ ਕੁਝ ਉਹ ਮਨ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਪੱਕੇ ਸੱਚੇ ਪੱਖੀ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਨਿਰਾਸ਼ਾ ਵੀ ਜਤਾਈ ਹੈ, ਔਰ ਨਾਲ ਦੀ ਨਾਲ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਦੋਸ਼ ਲਾਇਆ ਕਿ ਜਿਸ ਗ੍ਰਾਸ ਰੂਟ ਤੋਂ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਸੀ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਦਹਾਕੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਉਹ ਹੁਣ ਅਕੀਦੇ ਤੇ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹੀ। ਔਰ ਜੌਨ ਰਸਟਨ ਜਿਹੜੇ BC ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਨੂੰ BC ਲਿਬਰਲ ਵਰਗੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹ ਬਣਾ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ਸਿਰਫ ਰੰਗ ਦੀ ਤਬਦੀਲੀ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਾਲ ਚਰਚਾ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ 3 BC ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ MLA ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਤੋਂ ਅਲੱਗੀ ਹੋ ਜਾਣਾ, ਔਰ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਾਲ ਇੱਕ ਗੱਲ ਦਾ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਵੱਡਾ ਜ਼ਿਕਰ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਦੇ ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ 3 ਅਲੱਗ ਹੋਏ MLA ਬਾਰੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਚਰਚਾ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਲੈਕਮੇਲ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਲਫ਼ਜ਼ ਹੈ ਉਹਦਾ ਵੀ ਵਰਤੋਂ ਦੀ ਹੋਣੀ। ਪਰ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਕਾਸੇ ਦੇ ਜਵਾਬ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੌਨ ਰਸਟਨ ਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਗੱਲ ਨੂੰ ਸਪਸ਼ਟ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ, ਔਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਨਹੀਂ, ਬਲਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਆਮ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਨਾਗਰਿਕ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ, ਉਸ ਦੀ ਕੀ ਸੋਚ ਹੈ, ਔਰ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਿਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਫੇਅਰਨੈਸ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਅਕੀਦਾ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਚੱਲੀ ਸੀ, ਔਰ ਅੱਜ ਵੀ ਉਸੇ ਰਾਹ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਬਰਕਰਾਰ ਹੈ। ਯਾਦ ਰਹੇ BC ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਉਹ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਿ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਹੀ ਥੋੜ੍ਹੇ ਜਿਹੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀ गिणती देना शुरू हुई सी, जिस दे विच तकरीबन 36,000 वोटां लईआं सी और वोटां की गिणती वध के तकरीबन 8 ਲੱਖ तो उपर 9 ਲੱਖ के बराबर है जिहड़ी जा पहुंची सी पिछलियां इलैक्शन दे विच। और 2020 ते 2024 दे विच ਇਹ ਵੱਡਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਅੰਤਰ ਆ ਦੇਖਣ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਸੀ, ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਲੀਡਰ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਕੇ ਸਰਵੇਖਣ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਅਗਲੇ ਕੁਝ ਮਹੀਨੇ ਜਾਰੀ ਰਹੇਗਾ।
Canada not affected by Trump's looming deadline for trade deals. US President Donald Trump says he will be sending letters to countries around the world today as he seeks trade deals, but Canada is not being affected by Wednesday's tariff deadline. On Sunday, Trump said he's sending correspondents to up to 15 countries hit by the president's Liberation Day duties, telling them he will impose tariff rate if there's no trade deal. Members of the Trump's administration have said those tariffs would go into effect in August. Trump took his trade war to the world in April, but walked back the most devastating duties a few hours later, setting a 90-day deadline to make deals. Since then, the only trade arrangements the Trump administration has come up with have been frameworks for deals with two countries. Canada was not included in those global tariffs and has committed to coming up with some sort of bilateral deal with the US by July 21st.
US ਰਾਸ਼ਟਰਪਤੀ ਡੋਨਲਡ ਟਰੰਪ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਐਲਾਨ ਕੀਤੇ ਗਏ ਸੀ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਭਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ 15 ਮੁਲਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਟੈਰਿਫ ਲਗਾਉਣ ਦੀ, ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੀ ਗਿਣਤੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਰਾਸ਼ਟਰਪਤੀ ਨੇ ਸਪਸ਼ਟ ਲਫ਼ਜ਼ਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੱਸ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ 15 ਕੰਟਰੀਜ਼ ਜਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਇਹ ਆਪਣੀ ਟੈਰਿਫ ਡੀਲ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਮੁਕੰਮਲ ਕਰ ਲੈਣ, ਨਹੀਂ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਟੈਰਿਫ ਆ ਵੱਡੀ ਗਿਣਤੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਮੁਲਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਲਗਾਇਆ ਜਾਏਗਾ। ਯਾਦ ਰਹੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਨਾਲ ਚੱਲ ਰਿਹਾ ਟੈਰਿਫ ਦੇ ਮੁਤਲਕ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਦੇ 21 ਜੁਲਾਈ ਤੱਕ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸੰਪੂਰਨ ਹੋਣ ਦੀ ਪੂਰੀ ਹੋਣ ਦੀ ਆਸ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ।
Surrey hotel workers begin strike action after failing to reach collective agreement. Over 140 hotel workers at the Sheraton Vancouver Guildford Hotel in Surrey worked off their jobs Saturday. Unifor Local 3000 members say they have been without a contract since April 2024. After more than a year of bargaining, workers have voted to reject tentative agreement. The union's national president, Lana Payne, says the strike is about fairness, respect, and economic justice. Our members deserve better and are trying to catch up, Payne said. These workers kept the doors open during some of the most challenging years in hospitality. Now they are standing together to demand better wages in the face of a skyrocketing cost of living in the Lower Mainland. Gavin McGregor, the regional director of Unifor Western, says workers are taking a stand not just for themselves but for all workers in the hospitality industry. In a statement, Pacific Reach said that the Sheraton Vancouver Guildford Hotel will remain in operation and guests will be informed as the situation progresses. The most recent round of the contract talks over the past few weeks led to mediation, the statement said. However, that process reached an impasse several days ago. The union then conducted a strike vote, which was led to pickets being put up outside the hotel. The hotel remains optimistic an agreement will eventually be reached. Unifor Local 3000 represents 120 full-time and 24 part-time workers at the Sheraton Vancouver Guildford Hotel, which is owned by Pacific Reach Properties, an investment firm based in Vancouver. Last year, workers at the Sheraton Vancouver Airport Hotel in Richmond ended a 14-month strike. The hotel workers, represented by the Unite Here Local 40, ratified an agreement in August, securing a 30.5% wage increase.
ਗਿਲਫਰਡ ਵਿਖੇ ਸ਼ਰੈਟਨ ਹੋਟਲ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ 130 ਦੇ ਕਰੀਬ ਕਾਮੇ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਅੱਜ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਟ੍ਰਾਈਕ ਹੈ ਸੈਟਰਡੇ ਤੋਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਕਾਰਨ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਪ੍ਰੈਲ 2024 ਤੋਂ ਉਪਰੰਤ ਉਹ ਬਿਨਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਕੰਟਰੈਕਟ ਦੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਨ ਪਰ ਹੋਟਲ ਦੇ ਅਧਿਕਾਰੀਆਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕੰਮਕਾਰ ਹੋਟਲ ਦੇ ਸੰਬੰਧ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਸੇ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਰ ਜਾਰੀ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਫੈਸਲਾ ਲਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਯੂਨੀਅਨ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਲਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਿ ਵਡੇਰੀ ਮਾਤਰਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਵਰਕਰਸ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਰਿਪਰੈਜ਼ੈਂਟ ਕਰਦੀ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਤਕਰੀਬਨ ਸਾਲ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਸਮੇਂ ਤੋਂ ਬਿਨਾਂ ਕੰਟਰੈਕਟ ਦੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਵਰਕਰਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤਕਰੀਬਨ 120 ਦੇ ਕਰੀਬ ਫੁੱਲ ਟਾਈਮ ਨੇ ਤੇ 24 ਜੋ ਹਨ ਉਹ ਪਾਰਟ ਟਾਈਮ ਵਰਕਰਸ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਮਹਿੰਗਾਈ ਦੇ ਇਸ ਦੌਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਤਨਖਾਹਾਂ ਵਧਾਉਣ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰਕਿਰਿਆ ਉਸ ਕਿਤੇ ਦਿਖਾਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੇ ਰਹੀ। ਜਦ ਇਸ ਕੰਪਨੀ ਦੇ ਸ਼ੈਟਨ ਹੋਟਲ ਰਿਚਮੰਡ ਵਾਲੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਤਕਰੀਬਨ 14 ਮਹੀਨਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਸਟ੍ਰਾਈਕ ਤੋਂ ਉਪਰੰਤ 30.5 ਜਿਹੜਾ % ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵਾਧਾ ਤਨਖਾਹ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ 5 ਸਾਲਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਮੇਂ ਦੇ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਹਿਮਤੀ ਹੋ ਗਈ ਸੀ। ਔਰ ਹੁਣ ਯੂਨੀਅਨ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਵਰਕਰਸ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਆਪਣੇ ਹੱਕ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਲੜ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਔਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਰ ਦੀ ਹੋਣ ਵਾਲੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਤਬਦੀਲੀ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ मालिकां का कहना है कि वो अपने ਜਿਹੜੇ गेस्ट्स ने उन्होंने अपडेट ਦਿੰਦੇ ਰਹਿਣਗੇ।
इसी के साथ हमें दीजिएगा इजाजत। खबरों दा लेखा जोखा के इस प्रोग्राम से until next time, goodbye।